Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back, and if you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. I have recently hit the 500 subscriber milestone, so I wanted to say thank you to all of you who watch my videos and comment. I really do appreciate it. The BookTube community is so great, and I have had the opportunity to connect with some great people, which I really enjoy. So thank you. I will be doing something to celebrate eventually, hopefully soon. I wanted to make sure that I stayed above 500. YouTube likes to play with my heart a little, and I gain a whole bunch of subscribers and then I lose some of those subscribers. So you know how that goes, and I didn't want to celebrate too early. So stay tuned for something more about that soon, I hope. Today I am doing another book haul revisit where I take a look back at my book haul from, at this point it's a year ago, and see if I have read, any of the books that I actually hauled. So if any of them are maybe still on my radar, and to see if I have forgotten about any of them, which does happen. So in March of 2021, I did a massive book haul. There's close to 30 books from this haul. The good news is that I have read many of the books, so it's not so bad. I did not pull out all 29 books to show you because I have finally been able to get more shelving. So I am in the process of putting those up, so more books are kind of being sorted and everything is still very chaotic behind the camera. But I will put pictures up for you, and there's a lot to cover. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the books that I have read, and I have read 12 of the books from the list, so not quite half. First is Deacon King Kong by James McBride, and I had high hopes for this book and was a bit disappointed. There are a bazillion characters, which I found unnecessary and very distracting. It started off well, and it does capture your attention. A deacon shoots Brooklyn's biggest drug dealer in front of many people. And then in the middle I lost interest a bit, and then the end does pick up again. Next is The Only Good Indians. This is by Stephen Graham Jones, and this is a horror novel with some pretty gory scenes, but I thought that this book was written very well and had an important message. It's how nature takes revenge on people who have misused it. And it's different than most things that I read. I do read Indigenous stories, but this one is unique in how the story is told, and I also loved the cover of this book. The next book also has an intriguing cover, and that is The Harpy by Megan Hunter. This story is also darker. It has a darker theme, although not horror. Lucy is the main character, and you are drawn into her world of mundane daily activities while she works from home and takes care of the kids. And because Jake, Lucy's husband, has done something horrible, they come to an agreement that Lucy can hurt Jake 3 times to kind of even things out. And throughout this, we find out that Lucy has had an ongoing obsession with harpies. And as the story progresses, Lucy is slowly transformed into a harpy, both mentally and physically. So for a short book, it really packs a punch. A nonfiction on the list is The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates. And I had been waiting to read this for quite some time. And basically, Melinda Gates interviewed women from all around the world and has seen how educating women can really change societies. And I also appreciated how she gave practical ways that we can all be part of this, regardless of our location and our socioeconomic status. Next up is a beautiful book, The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Quay May. This is a historical fiction novel set in Vietnam, and it's about 3 generations of the Tran family. The story is about how they survive the Vietnamese War and the after effects of the war. And this is a heart-wrenching story. Next is Migrations by Charlotte McConaghy. This was a great book. I loved the themes in this book, and it had a Where'd You Go, Bernadette means Margaret Atwood kind of vibe to me. It follows Franny, who is following the migration of the Arctic terns to Antarctica, but it's about so much more than that. It's a really good book. Another book that I enjoyed was A Woman Is No Man by Etaf Rum, and this is a story about the 3 generations of Palestinian women and how they navigate the world and their relationships. I appreciated how the idea of freedom and pressure for both men and women in Palestine and the US was brought into the story. Next up is a Canadian author, A Town Called Solace by Mary Lawson, who I love. This story is told from Clara's point of view. Clara's a young girl who spends time at her neighbor's house and while her neighbor is in the hospital. And it's a bit of a coming of age story and how children try to figure out where they fit in the world, in the adult world of secrets. And next up is one of my favorite books of 2021, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved this story, and I still think about it. Evelyn Hugo is a 1950s Hollywood icon, kind of like an Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe mashup. She is ready to tell her story, and that's how we learn about all of her husbands. And the story behind the fame isn't, what was publicly portrayed. Next up is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and this is by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and it's translated by Geoffrey Trousselot. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This is a Japanese book that has 4 different stories, all of which take place in a cafe, which has a seat that you can travel back in time. You just need to be back before the coffee gets cold. There were some things I really liked about these stories, but there was also some things that I didn't really care for in the stories. MJ from Reading This Life just did a quick review on this, so I will actually leave a link to her video below if you're interested in more of that about that book. Another nonfiction book is next, Remember, The Science of Memory and the Art of Forgetting. This is by Lisa Genova, who, if you've been around for a little while, you know that I love Lisa Genova. And this was her first nonfiction book. And I do find the theme of memory and how our brains work really fascinating. So this book was interesting to me. I do like her fiction better though. The last book I read from this list is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, which I just read as a buddy read with Becky from Teacup the Storyteller and V from the Sassy Library Fox. This is what I learned. Neil Gaiman writes very different books than I normally read, and I adored the main character in this book, but I also found it sad and was surprised by the violence and evil. So this is a bit of a segue into talking about some of the books on the list that are still on my radar. So I hear so much about Neil Gaiman, and at this time last year, I took part in a 2-evening online event with Neil Gaiman, and I purchased 5 of his books, so Ocean at the End of the Lane being one of them, along with Stardust, and Anansi Boys, and Neverwhere, and American Gods. So I do eventually want to get to all of these, and I loved the covers of them. I just think they're so cool. So these are definitely still on my radar to read, and I love these editions. They're from Headline editions. So, but I still have about 10 other books that are still on my radar in this list as well. The Children's Act by Ian McEwan I picked up because I had watched the movie on Netflix and I really liked it, And as I was watching it, I thought, I bet the book will be even better, you know? So I still have to find out if that's true. The next book is a collection of short stories. Oh, and I actually have it here. Modern Times by Kathy Sweeney. Now, I have actually started this book. My mom was reading this book to me, and you have to understand that my mother is not a reader. You know, you have Steve Donahue on, you know, one end of the reading spectrum, and if you look way, way down the end, you will see my mother at the other end. So she read about a third of the book, maybe a little bit more, and then we never picked it up again. So I will eventually go back and read this. The next several books are still high on my TBR too. Blindness by Jose Saramoga, I think is how you say his name, translated by Giovanni Pontiero. And I picked this up at Chapters when I started talking to one of the people who worked there. And he recommended this book to me, and it sounded so good. And I think that this might now be a series on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like that. The story is about an epidemic, white blindness, that spreads very quickly, and how people react. And I have a feeling it's going to be a bit horrifying. Love After Love by Ingrid Persaud has also never left my radar. I have almost started it a couple of times, but then other things have taken its place. It won the Costa Book Award in 2020, and I remember that Eric Carl Anderson talked about it many times and really praised it, and so I really do want to get to this. Cold New Climate by Isabel Wohl is another one I have almost started, and then it got put aside for various reasons. So this is a Republic of Consciousness book, and I feel really bad because I have so many of their books, and I really do want to read them all, and then other things take their place. So maybe what I'll have to do is, you know, read a few of their books and do a whole video just on that. So we'll see. Luster by Raven Leilani is another book that I would like to get to this year, if I can. I've seen mixed reviews for it, but it sounds intriguing to me. A young Black woman gets involved with a married man, and I think, if I'm correct, it's about the relationship between all three of these people. Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas is the prequel to The Hate You Give, which I loved so much, and I'm looking forward to kind of going back to these characters and getting their backstory. We Came Here to Shine by Susie Orman Schnall. The setting of this one is what appeals to me. It takes place in 1939 at the World's Fair in New York, and the main characters are women, and it'll be interesting. I'm actually currently reading a book right now about the World's Fair in Chicago, so we'll see. Maybe the two can compare a little bit. The next book I have started, it's Homegoing by Yagyasi, and I've put it down for a little bit. I've put it aside because I think it needs more time and attention, and I still need to do all the reading for my books for the BookTube prize. My last book just arrived today for that, so I have kind of put some other things on hold. But Homegoing is one that I will definitely come back to, and I think I'm really going to like it from what I've read so far. And then the last book that has remained on my radar is Book of Wings by Tanya Evanson, I think is what it is. This was longlisted for the Giller Prize last year, and it's a quick read. I'm hoping to kind of read it in one sitting when I get the chance to do that. So that leaves me with 3 books that fell off the radar, but are now back on the radar. So Revolutionary Kiss by Mary Kate Summers. This book was sent to me by the author, and I remember thinking that I would read it last year because last year I was trying to read more romance as a genre that I don't normally often pick up. So then we ended up moving, and this book slipped through the cracks. The same thing happened with Slay Like a Mother by Catherine Winch, and this book was sent to me also by the author, and I wasn't sure the book was for me since I'm not a mother, but I'm still willing to kind of give this book a try, especially now that it's back on the radar. And then the final book of this revisit is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I have never read this author before. I didn't even remember why I had it, but it turns out that Christine, one of my subscribers, sent it to me, and from what I can tell, it seems like it will have an unreliable narrator, which I enjoy if it's done well. So I have to put this one a little bit higher up the TBR too. So that really was a massive book haul last year, and I will leave a link to the original haul video in the description box below. So in case you want to hear more about the books when I pick them up. And then of course the other books that I have read are in my wrap-up video, so maybe I can link some of those below too, so you can check that out. I'm glad to see that I read a good percentage of these books. I was a little nervous when I saw how many there were, but now I just need to get to the rest of them, and that will be fun. So please let me know if you have read any of the books from this haul, or if you're interested in reading any of them. Are there any that you would recommend that I, maybe put on the top of the pile? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again to everyone for your support and for watching and for subscribing and just being part of this amazing BookTube community. I look forward to chatting with all of you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.